Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fundamental video series on self-awareness and general growth. My name is Anka. Welcome to my channel. And today's discussion is self-sabotage. Now, I'm making these videos for all of us who sort of embarked on this dedication for self-exploration and self-awareness practices. And so I'm not really concerned about the length of the videos. My focus is to provide you with like a wide enough foundation for you to have enough depth to go in deeper levels of subconscious and deeper levels and ways of observation. So today we are talking about self-sabotage, which is, let me share my screen here. All right, here we go. So it's that initial, yes, you are spontaneously excited about something. And then as that sits with you, you come up with all these different reasons why you shouldn't pursue something like that. So it could be a solution to an existing problem, a long problem. It could be a new idea, a new venture, a new growth. And all these other thoughts are coming to self-sabotage you and to rationalize why you shouldn't going further, which then creates this feeling of futility, right? So what is the state of futility? A prolonged rehearsal of past negative patterns running repeatedly in the mind, most likely of defeat or fear of change. So it's definitely a tape. It's a tape in the mind of a sequence of events that happened, an experience that happened, but you've rehearsed that tape so many times, or that memory, until it became a tape, right? And what that does, once you perfected that rehearsal, it creates this bubble of hopelessness, right? To such an extent that even when you have the yes, right, you have that spontaneous idea or solution, but you're kind of excited about it, right? Well, that is a heightened vibration. And then when that vibration hits the hopelessness, right, which is a more denser vibration, it starts activating the tape, right? And then your thoughts are running with things like, oh, I can't. If only someday, I wish, I'm not lucky, I'm too tired, I really don't care, lie, or I don't have time, right? All these things or really good rationalizations why you shouldn't be doing this. But it goes from that excitement, yes, then the tape is running, and it brings you back to this state of, well, what's the point? Like why would I even try? And before we go deeper into the I think I have 9 different ways of self-sabotage. I want to start with the larger picture because, I mean, even me personally, once I started with just looking at all the different ways, and this one hits me much harder than all the other past exercises and patterns of observation that I went into. And so it's really good to step back and look at the much bigger picture. What exactly is self-sabotage actually trying to communicate to us? And of course, I'm going to the tarot for those bigger pictures. And I'm also a very visual person, so I don't want to make it about tarot, but I want to use the strength that the symbolism provides. And so for me, this is the 7 of Swords. And that symbolism alone is huge, right? When I see this picture, I can feel the futility in it because you have one sword. This is the yes, right? And it's pointing upward. But then you have 6 swords meeting it, right? Fighting it. So just looking at this picture, of course, I have this one thought, but all the other thoughts, and it could be way more than 6, are battling it. So I'm not going to go further into an analysis. I'm not going to go even trying to get into some type of objectionality, right? Either emotional or into a pros cons type analysis. I already know it's 1 versus 6. I'm going to lose. I'm not going to even pick a fight with myself. So this futility sense is overpowering. And obviously, right, self-sabotage has like addictive behaviors for that tape to run on such automatic mode. We definitely must have our brain synapses wired, in these self-sabotaging patterns pretty well. It's very biological, and so it's very addictive. Of course, it's from a behavioral addiction, not necessarily a substance abuse, but either so, this is it provides a strong enough barrier, right? But what is trying to do? What is actually discard from a much larger picture trying to do? Well, most of the time, especially with the 7, right? We have that's such a spiritual and magical number, and it's a calling. Our higher self is definitely ready to move the experience at a much higher level and at a much deeper level of understanding. It's definitely a new type of version for ourselves. And the ego is resisting it very, very hard. Also, when it's almost like an integration. If the higher mind, if our soul has reached this time crunch almost, right? I mean, it's almost like, okay, we really need to move on. You've been in this loop for quite a while, and you know, I'm kind of bored. Let's move. And especially when things are like that, it's almost like self-sabotage is even being highlighted. It's so forefront because that integration, that means the leveling up has already started and it's possibly well underway. And as it's integrating through the densities, it's hitting our personality, our ego, all the physiology, all the synapses. And it's creating possibly even more circumstances where you would have the tendency. This is how you start. You're starting off with a self-sabotaging pattern. But if it's strong enough and that self-awareness kind of is also starting to kick in, you can sort of see how this is actually part of the integration of a much bigger uh, subconscious process that is still happening, and which is actually trying to dissolve these patterns that have kept us small even up to now. So it's really an end of a cycle with the 7. It's the beginning of a whole new self-discovery, which is very, very daunting and scary because you're literally stepping into the unknown. So leaving the patterns, the comfort of how the tape is going to go, even though it might be uncomfortable and it's annoying and it's downright, it could be harmful. We know how the tape runs. And if we've been long enough in that environment, it's that hopelessness is our home, sort of, right? We feel very comfortable within that structure. And stepping out of the structure is very, very scary. So the thing with the 7, and it's calling for the chariot, right? From the major arcana. And the chariot is all about building that momentum, building that focus. And it's asking you to build up that courage for then to take that momentum and break through these barriers of self-limitation. So this, to overcome self-sabotage, especially with the symbolism of this card, and that hopelessness structure within you, this is something that you have to tackle on a very systematic and very disciplined way. It's not something that you can just say, oh, I'm going to start fresh. Allow yourself the space and the time you might have to even heal before you can start accumulating some of this courage, but creating that space and the time space, that allowance that no, I'm going to do this, but I need that because the force that I need to break through requires strength. It requires courage. So keep that in mind, right? Because some of these, as we get into them, they can really hit home. But just know that if this self-sabotage is starting to play out, it really has an amazing purpose and outcome. And there's much bigger things at play for you that are right there knocking at the door. So let's get into some of these ways, right? Number one, procrastination. This is the delaying of tasks to avoid responsibilities. But the trick with this and to catch yourself is you are really getting uh, out of your way to actively ignore those tasks with other ones. But these other ones are really worthless distractions more so than tasks, or tasks that maybe are due in 2 weeks and you're still postponing this thing right here that it's due tomorrow. And we are really, really good about rationalizing through why we're actually doing these worthless ones, right? But the bigger ones, like going deeper into procrastination, waiting for the right moment, could also be this self-sabotaging, right? You don't quite have that courage, so you're waiting for that perfect timing, which usually never comes, right? Or you're rationalizing. You have really good reason why you are stuck in this planning mode, but in reality, no, it's just a facade, and you know it. If you were to sit down with you, you would observe that you know that. And the last one is you might be stuck in over researching something, right? One more article, one more book, one more video, and all of these basically at the end of the day resulted in inaction, but you really, really rationalized through all of them. So overall, you're kind of feeling content because it took you back to the self-sabotage. It took you back to that hopeless and futility. So the next day or in a couple of days when you're picking it up again, you're running the tape again, and you can see how easy it is, right, to fool yourself. Number two, negative self-talk. I'm not going to go into this too much because we all know what those words are that we have on a tape towards us. But pretty much, I would say probably 80%, they sum into I'm not good enough, right? And then I'll never succeed, but they're all in fear. Or maybe if we put all of them, it would be 100% fear, right? The problem with negative self-talk, these are basically affirmations. And once that tape is really strongly embedded in the brain, you start to believe it, right? I'm truly not good enough. So they not only that you're missing out on opportunities, not stepping into opportunity, but maybe even if you took an opportunity, you find a way to self-sabotage yourself out of it. And just because of this negative self-talk, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is pretty powerful stuff. Perfectionism, number three. This is setting unrealistic goals and viewing anything less as failure, right? So then this one really ensures that you will never succeed. So at perfectionism, you are overly self-critical within your environment. You pretty much carry this unworthy, inadequate, um, symptom, state of mind most of the time, right? And it really ties in with number 4, imposter syndrome, the outsider look, right? Everybody else is right here on the pedestal and they are way more competent, more qualified. Overall, they are better than me. So with the imposter syndrome, more so, you are in a constant state of self-doubt. And this one can really fool you, depending how deep you are into it. It's really difficult to catch you that no, you are this self-doubt. You're not actually over researching, because see, uh, especially these 4 right here on the first page, they can create a very nice dance between all of them, and they can switch back and forth. And you'll never catch yourself, right? If you're just, oh, do I have imposter syndrome? Maybe, but it's it's light and I can justify it. But then you go into procrastinate, over researching or endless planning or something like that, and you can never reach a decision, right? So because you're constantly in self-doubt. The way to raise a flag where you would want to monitor yourself in a wider circumstance is this one. You might have difficulty accepting compliments or any positive recognition, any attribute of success that is um, sent your way. You are very uncomfortable with that. And if that really happens, I mean, we're not just talking modesty, we are talking, I'm kind of uncomfortable, right? And you're also making excuses. Oh, that was just luck. That was good. That was just good timing. That was whatever. That was, oh, it wasn't, it was only my idea, but everybody else implemented it, or the other way around. Well, it wasn't really my idea. I just, executed a plan or whatever it is. And instead of just saying, oh, thank you for recognizing me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, right? It can be so easy, but no, you have to have an excuse why or how to justify, because you are in this state of futility and hopelessness. So when that positive compliment comes over, it's like, oh, how do I balance that, right? How do I still self-sabotage so I can go back in my futility where I'm comfortable, because somehow I made that my home. Fear of failure. So we have number 5 and number 6, self-doubt. So both I feel like they're kind of wrapping up under this umbrella, the past 4, right? Because the fear of failure, you can say all of those have, all the previous 4 have this element of failure. So that is so high that you'd rather procrastinate, right, than fail, or you'd rather over research, or make a different excuse. And then with the self-doubt, this is a very draining state, because your CPU is constantly running. You are pretty much in a constant state of comparison, especially when you're out in your environment. um, right, in especially in a technical environment, or whatever, your work environment. That comparison wheel is on, and that it's like a constant drain of energy. So I would also watch, how exhausted do you feel, and can you justify that exhaustion? Because I know personally how exhausting that can be, and learning how to regulate that makes a huge difference on your daily overall energy. And of course, being in this self-doubt, you have a really hard time making a decision. And even if you are coming into a decision and you go with it, you gave it the green, you're still not free, because you are second guessing, did I do the right thing? And you continue to be stuck in that drainage. Now, people pleasing can, just as number 7, can be its own separate big bracket. I'm sure this is not the complete list here, but some of the top, how we go about people pleasing. We just have difficulty saying no. So we would rather suppress our own preference and sometimes our needs rather than risking criticism or rejection or disapproval, because everybody else is on a pedestal and we are the little peasant, the little servant. We have to be in this, sabotage energy. So we become very small when we are with others. And not only that, we really go to great lengths and sometimes resources to avoid those conflicts or to avoid rejection, right? A lot of this, I feel, especially self-sabotage overall, can definitely be linked to trauma, childhood issues, or just lineage in general. Deep self-sabotage usually, it's kind of epigenetic. We, because we started to sort of normalize self-sabotage. And if our parents are are displaying this type of behavior when we grew up with this, right? Excessive apologizing. Oh, I just want to make sure that you're not displeased with me. You pick that up, right? That's your environment. That's your normal. And now you grow up as an adult, and you're starting to realize, wow, these things are not normal. It is not normal to ignoring or downright neglect my needs. We're not even talking desires or, what are my dreams? No, I'm talking needs, to put others first, right? And a lot of it, this is a learned thing. So it is extra difficult, and that's why we need to allow some time to come into our healing, into our power, because that force, we're not breaking just our experience, we're breaking the lineage. The end of the cycle can be really huge. So, and then, of course, we really have a hard time setting boundaries. So, ignoring flags, we can see them, we can even talk about it, and then we choose to actively ignore it. We would have difficulty delegating, especially in a leadership role, taking on others' tasks, problems. We would have no issue taking those on, right? And tolerating disrespectful or even inappropriate behavior. Yeah, so this one is all of them, right? Taken to extreme or taking into deeper subconscious, it can really have harsh consequences. Number 8 and last one, this is self-handicapping. Again, we're talking about extremes, and this one, I would say, this is definitely something that it's into the extreme, but also the power of the mental and physiological connection here, because you can literally self-induce physiological excuses. At the end of the day, it is an excuse. But here's the kicker, and why it really works, and why this is so powerful. It's because you are protecting your self-esteem. So your ego is creating, instead of saying, yeah, I'm taking a beating, right? I'm actively getting out of my way to do something, neglect me and do some worthless stuff. But somehow your self-esteem is still at play. But if you were to have a headache or have some bowel issues, all kinds of stomach issues, right? You can induce a panic attack, just general symptoms of not feeling well. Then, especially towards others, I can understand. You go ahead and don't do that, I'll do it. And then they'll step in. But we have the body, the mind and body has the power to generate, and they are real. You can generate a fever, right? Um, a lot of it is subconscious, right? You have such a resistance to doing what you should be doing that you can generate that, and then you're off for a week or whatever. And of course, you can do that with substance abuse too. Um, you can purposely intoxicate yourself, and then, oops, you can't drive. Overall, with all of these 8 examples, the underlying theme is avoidance to change, right? Which means at a more fundamental level, the fear of the unknown is much greater than the difficulty of the current situation, right? And if those patterns, you're at home, you created this familiarity, and you know how it ends, because it always ends in hopelessness, it always ends in inaction, it always ends where you were before, and it's predictable. And sometimes we get addicted, again, behaviorally addicted to that, but it's predictable. And it creates a very huge, it's almost like a wall. It's like a palpable ball. If the fear is strong enough, it definitely becomes like a wall. So it's difficult to penetrate, right? So you can see how easy it is to get stuck in these unconscious patterns. And again, I do want to stress, they are, even though we're actively avoiding them, like we're getting out of the way, finding different ways to focus on than dealing with this, we are still doing this on a subconscious level, right? That's why the tape, we've rehearsed this enough where it's automatic. So with the fear of the unknown, a lot of times this is linked with this belief that we live in a universe that is bad, right? It's malevolent. It wants to harm us. We live in a hostile world where, there's the fear of getting out there, because who might be out there to get us, right? So that is, if that resonates true, I would really start there and work with the nervous system to calm it and to have enough little, very small contrary experience where I can prove to my nervous system, right, my brain and my autonomous nervous system, that I can make a small change and the universe supports me and nothing happened to me. And then maybe I make an equal worth, whatever that means, change, and I second the experience, right? I confirm my first experience. And then maybe I take it up a notch and I go into a deeper change. And that's how we change that belief. I mean, at the minimum, you want to become neutral. No, the world is neutral. We all have the same opportunities. We all have the same chances. And my vibration also plays into that, right? So the more healed and whole and neutral, if not happiness and joy, is being emanated from my electromagnetic aura, then I'll settle on neutral for now. But having the bad, the malevolent view on the universe can really create almost this impossible limitation. It's that's fundamentally what needs to dissolve before other things can take root at a true healing. How do you recognize self-sabotage? Again, as I was saying, they are on a subconscious level. If we were way more conscious, we would have taken care of these before we got into the level of depth that we are currently at. So recognizing it is not simple for me. So and I want you to think about your system and how you work, and use this as inspiration, right? But for me, I'm looking at my activity level and how busy I want to be. It's almost when I am coming towards one of my limitations and this self-sabotaging tape is starting to play. I'm actively more busy and um I'm looking for things to become even busier, but I'm not actually making a choice. Do I really need this? Do I not need this? Can I do this next week? I'm just jumping on these activities just to avoid this other stuff. So I'm very actively engaged into that, where that's not my normal. So when I'm starting to have those behaviors, I know to pause, right? And run through those things. No, I can schedule this. I have more time. I have 2 weeks for this one. I can schedule this. And I'm feeling the resistance. So with the second point, many times the resistance is palpable. You feel it in the body. It's almost like when you sit down, sometimes maybe paying bills or um, whatever, I don't know, doing paperwork of any kind. I think a lot of people have that resistance. And approaching the desk or wherever you're doing that paperwork, you can feel that resistance. So that is a very strong clue. You have to be very aware um, of your body. The sensitivity and your body has to be heightened, and then it's easy to feel that, right? And number three, it could be a possible family pattern. So look very objectively and no judgment, which one of your parents, if maybe both, had a tendency to have these tapes and to have these behaviors, and you grew up in such an environment where for you self-sabotage is it's pretty normal, right? And so I want you to sit down and really think about how does your body react to some of these limitations, right? And that is a very, very strong clue. Same with solutions. I don't want you to really adopt somebody else's solution without filtering it through you and without you making that solution your own. So even if you make it without adjustment, but I also want you to improve it, make it your own. And remember, these, it takes practice. Okay, many times you become aware of it, and that's the number one. Without that awareness, you're not going to go anywhere. And that's exactly the purpose of these discussions. We want to take details of all these possible ways that we self-sabotage ourselves, so that especially when they are in words and when they are in a recent thought form, you can go about your week and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know what this is. I recognize it, right? This is perfectionism. I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to take some time. And with that awareness coming into you, it is really important for you to also have the willingness to listen for the clarity. What is that resistance wanting to tell you? And you also have to have that willingness to take responsibility. Because once that clarity comes in and you're still not taking responsibility, it's almost you're accepting the self-sabotaging habits. You are okay with them. And maybe that's another decision. Now, the decision of I'm realizing what I'm doing and I'm taking responsibility, but right now I'm creating space for myself. And that's number two. Again, some of these, when we become self-aware of some of these self-sabotage practices that we are so deep into perfecting, when we realize all these missed opportunities, I mean, it's like a slap in the face. I mean, many times it's like, I need a minute. Like, I need a minute to take it all in because this is pretty big. The reason why I'm here, it's me, right? And that's difficult. It, and you need that space, right? You need some time and space to figure it out. Now, if you can change your environment, if you can go outside, go for a walk, go for a run, and even if you are in a discussion, maybe you can express, I can even go any further with this. Can we talk about it? Pick it up. Hopefully we can pick it up another time. But this is so huge for me. I really need some time to practice it right here. Right. Once you go through those, then yes, you can really sit down and look at your self-talk. Look how negative it is and powerful it is, right? And then you can look at the goals, but are these actual realistic goals? And then you can move into breaking those down into monthly, weekly, and daily actions that are very manageable, right? So here you can really get into habit creation, where you can create schedules, you can create a support system. There's a whole different industry that can really help with that, right? With perfectionism, you just have to come to embrace it, right? It's a shift in mindset, and it's just as simple. You have to realize that there's actually no such thing as perfectionism. There's just experiencing, right? There's always something to learn. There's always something to explore. So there's nothing, you cannot reach a point and have it perfect. There's no such thing. And I think once that really clicks and you move from that hard shell of, it's also a little bit of control, right? Perfectionism. And then you go into, but this is an experience for me, and this is a self exploration for me and for the others involved. So, what can we learn about it? All of a sudden, it is so an expanding experience versus the contracting. Big difference. Asking for help and support. Now you can choose a friend. The friend that you're choosing, I would suggest you choose one that definitely has your highest growth in mind, so they are not bringing in their own biased opinion about certain things. They really work on what is best for you, right? But a friend of mine, she really works with the universe. She just puts it out there. I just want clarity. Give me clarity about the situation because I don't really know why I'm doing these things. And what's really interesting, it's like without fail, I will get my answer. It might not be right now, but within the week, I will have it. And I might not like it, but I can deal with the truth and I'm okay with it. And at least I can take a decision that is more long term or more complete, and I'll work through it. But I will always get that answer when I ask the universe. So whatever system you have, right? It's great. Setting boundaries. Now, this also takes practice. Um, Becoming comfortable with saying no also takes practice. And so really allow that space, excuse me, and and that practice for you where it's like, okay, I'm not going to get it each and every single time. If I catch myself and I'm still in the middle of it, that's okay. I'm not going deeper. Now I already self-sabotage myself. I'm not going to self-judge and add all these layers of harm to ourselves. I'm going to allow my time to practice the boundaries and practice expressions. How do I want to communicate that, right? That's pretty big. Now, I have the next one is tap into the sensory world of the body to calm mind and emotions. Sometimes when our mind and our emotions are really hyped up, we cannot counter them. You cannot relax, right? You cannot, how do you motivate yourself out of hopelessness? It's kind of hard to combat that with more thought and emotion. Much a much faster way is through the sensory portion of our body. So actually tapping and just snapping out of it. Um, you can also run, at a faster pace if you are a jogger. Stretching, cold showers are really good, right? But you want that, like, get out of this stuckness of anger or sadness or whatever, frustration, right? And that usually, it's much more effective. Yes, once you are more level-headed, then you can sit down with yourself and go into self-reflection, go into meditation maybe. But the body, the sensory aspect, the touch is pretty powerful. The next one and the last one, which is the strongest one, it's decide to surrender to change. Now, if you are deep into self-sabotage and you've recognized this and you're like, yes, I'm taking responsibility. It doesn't matter how I got here, why I got here. I'm just here and I'm working from this. It's really hard to surrender to change from that place. The gap is pretty hard. It's too much. It's too deep. So deciding to surrender, I feel like you would have to overcome enough layers of self-sabotage and have enough healing. Definitely you would have to overcome, if you hold that belief that my world is hostile and I'm currently and I'm constantly in this comparison, I'm constantly watching and I'm constantly exerting this fear type and attention uh, as I'm moving around my space. Then going from that to surrender, it's not going to work. So you have to work through those layers, and when you get to enough trust and you have enough confidence in yourself, you gathered enough of that courage and that momentum, and when you surrender, that integration that happens in a body, it's a more feminine approach, and it's a more subtle and a more energetic way to work with surrender. I'm just saying it's a more, I'm going to just say advanced way, but it's also very powerful. And if you are really working with the integration of the surrender, you're very clear in your mind that this is the best way and it will work, and the expansion is what's happening within you. It is a very effective way to work through self-sabotage, right? Work through that barrier, and with time. Now, it doesn't have to go, if the intensity is there, if that momentum to create that breakthrough, you will wake up one morning and that layer of hopelessness is gone. And you would be amazed, all of a sudden you react different to some of these activities that before you had this resistance, and it can literally be from yesterday to today. It's amazing. It's very, very powerful. So with this, I wish you a happy integration. Remember, the Seven of Swords is a calling. It's your new, it's the invitation to your new leveling up. It's not something that is really highlighting the victimhood of you self-sabotaging. These are just symptoms, right? So once we integrate that healing these are just layers that we are releasing, right? We are dissolving if we are aware of them. So if you have a topic, if you have an interest that you want to work together on this, I also have my discussion circle, 7 p.m. It's online, and it's free, or donation, buy me a coffee, either way. It's 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And then I create these videos for sharing and for everybody else to work who cannot attend. So happy integration. I wish you all the best. Thank you.